Thanks for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, in a first, Kenya's Senate votes to oust the country's vice president. The upper house moves ahead with the unprecedented impeachment despite Rigathi Gachagua's absence. He was out of the picture on Thursday, having been rushed to hospital earlier with reportedly stress-induced chest pains. We dissect a dramatic day with our correspondent from Nairobi, who's been following developments for us. Also, the UN's climate chief says that richer countries must do more to fund poorer nations' race to combat the effects of global warming. Africa's heating up faster than the global average, and seaside communities on the continent are struggling to cope with the encroaching waters as the seas rise. And there are more demands for childcare options in Ivory Coast as more women pursue their careers. As the workforce expands, the need for nurseries has as well, but it's not always an affordable option. But first, it's been a dramatic and historic day in the Kenyan political landscape. The Senate met late into the evening on Thursday as it pushed through a vote to remove Rigathi Gachagua from office just hours after he'd been admitted to hospital with chest pains that his team say were linked to stress. Now, the vice president pled not guilty earlier this week to the 11 charges underpinning the impeachment. They ranged from corruption, money laundering, and fostering ethnic divisions. Now, he says that he's the victim of a political witch hunt because of a rift with President William Ruto. Our Olivia Bizo has been following the day for us. Liv, a day is a long time in politics. Talk us through the ups and downs of Thursday. It's been pretty dramatic.
Good evening, Georgia. Yes, it's been a dramatic day full of twists and turns and unexpected political surprises here in Kenya. The Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has now been impeached on charges that include corruption, ethnic division, and undermining government authority. The 67 senators voted in favour of his impeachment. They voted on the 11 charges, and they voted in a large majority on the first charge, which was enough for him to be removed from office. Now, this whole impeachment process had gone relatively smoothly until this Thursday. Rigathi Gachagua was supposed to defend himself in the Senate on the 11 impeachment charges. But at around 2:30, when he was supposed to appear, he was nowhere to be seen. There was a lot of uncertainty and confusion in the Senate until his lawyer explained that he was in hospital suffering from chest pain because of the stress, apparently. Now, there was also a lot of speculation over whether or not this was true. The lawyer then asked if the Senate could delay the vote until Gachagua was out of hospital so that he could defend himself. The Speaker then put forward a motion to delay the vote until Saturday, but the senators rejected that motion and the vote went ahead. So it was definitely a day full of surprises. There was a lot of confusion and uncertainty, but now the vote has passed and the deputy president has been impeached.
So what does this mean going forward to both Gachagua and to the wider Kenyan political landscape? This must be quite disruptive.
Yes, it's very disruptive. There's still a lot of uncertainty. Before the vote, Gachagua had said that he would challenge it if it was approved, so there's uncertainty around that. His lawyers, have also said that they're going to challenge it because he was supposed to be allowed to defend himself, which he wasn't able to do this afternoon because he was in hospital. But if this impeachment process is validated, as is expected, there is a lot of uncertainty over who will be the next deputy president of Kenya. Now, this whole process has completely altered the political alliances in the country. And to better understand the political alliances, it's important to sort of briefly summarise the political context here in Kenya. So there are more than 40 ethnic groups, and there are three main ethnic groups politically in the political world here. There's the Kikuyus, which is Gachagua's ethnic group, which is mainly located around the vote-rich Mount Kenya region. Then there's the Kalenjin of President William Ruto, and finally the Luo ethnic group, which is the group of the main opposition leader Raila Odinga, and they're mostly located around the Lake Victoria region. So President William Ruto initially partnered with Gachagua to gain support in the Mount Kenya region, but then the two men fell out a few months ago, and it's now looking like Ruto is definitely turning towards the main opposition leader Raila Odinga. So it's definitely altering all of the political alliances here, especially ahead of the 2027 elections. Now, a lot of Kenyans that I've spoken to do expect that Ruto will face a political backlash from this whole process. And a lot of them have also told me that this whole process has been a distraction from the aftermath of the protests, the anti-government protests that took place in June.
Liv, thank you so much for talking us through all of that and for sticking with it through a long day. Liv Biza there for us from Nairobi. In some other news, the UN's climate chief says that money from richer developed countries must be at the core of a new deal to ramp up funding for poorer nations combating global warming. The fallout from that has seen Africa warm up faster than the global average. Ahead of COP29 finding ways to finance the continent's shift to dealing with the fallout from climate change will be central to talks. Meanwhile, rising sea levels are affecting coastal communities across the continent. This report from Senegal.
It's become a ritual for Ibrahima Diouf. With only a few basic tools, the 63-year-old meticulously repairs the foundations of his house, eroded by the relentless assaults of the Atlantic Ocean.
This house will stay here as long as we're here, because every time it breaks, I'm going to redo it. There's no problem. It can stay here for another 50 years.
In Barni, a small fishing town close to Dakar, residents live under the constant threat of rising sea levels. The oldest, who still remember the large sandy beaches of their youth, say the coastline has receded by around 60 meters since the 1980s, swallowing hundreds of homes. Today, only a few rundown buildings remain, their cracked walls and moldy roofs threatening to collapse at any moment. Left to fend for themselves, residents are doing what they can to stave off the waves, yet all are aware of fighting a losing battle.
All we have to protect ourselves, to adapt, are these tyres and empty rice bags filled with sand. I'm scared, and I'm certain that if solutions aren't found, Barni will disappear.
Senegal, where over half of the population lives near the sea, loses up to 2 meters of coastline each year, according to the Environment Ministry, a phenomenon primarily caused by rising sea levels, triggered by global warming. In Barni, residents are beginning to lose hope of ever winning their fight against the waves.
The South African government asked Taiwan to move its representative office outside of Pretoria by the end of the month or risk closure. The demand's allegedly a result of pressure from China as relations between Beijing and South Africa warm up. China sees Taiwan as a breakaway province and does not recognize its independence. Taiwan has asked Pretoria to reconsider its demand, but may consider reciprocal action on South Africa's office in Taipei or even stricter visa requirements for South Africa. And as more women in Ivory Coast move forward with their careers, it's boosted economic empowerment and the workforce grows, meaning that more women are breaking with tradition, looking for more help with their kids. This report by Laurent Berstecker.
Abibatu Zembo is a street seller at Abidjan's Kokoviko market, a busy and chaotic environment that's hardly fitting for children. For months, the young woman had no choice but to bring her daughter along, but since discovering this local kindergarten, a weight has been lifted off her shoulders.
I work by the side of the road, so when my daughter plays there, it's really not safe. I'm happy I could send her to kindergarten. They're going to teach her to read and write. She's very alert, she talks a lot, she already knows many things.
Dropping off your children at the creche, an idea that's been gaining traction in Ivory Coast, where toddlers are traditionally left in the care of relatives or nannies. But as the number of women joining the workforce continues to rise, parents are increasingly turning to preschool structures to care for their offspring, a way to lighten the load, but also to favor the development of the child.
I decided to put my son in kindergarten because he can be around other children, he can learn to develop himself and his social skills, but also other things like reading, writing and learning new languages.
Yet for many Ivorians, a significant obstacle remains: the cost. With annual fees sometimes exceeding 1,500 euros, nurseries have long remained the privilege of the rich. In recent years, a growing number of public structures have been trying to make childcare more affordable, especially for families working in the informal sector.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, though, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.
France 24, your economy explained.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.
I am Chinua Sondu, reporting from Lagos, Nigeria for France 24. Join me on all updates on Nigeria on France 24 news programs.
Chinua Sondu, one of the 200 France 24 correspondents around the world.